What's going on, guys? Welcome to our random video on this channel. Shout out to everyone subscribing to the channel, liking the videos. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the iPhone 8 and also the NBA playoffs because I've been watching a lot of the games in the NBA. Now, as far as the iPhone 8, people are already saying that Apple could be manufacturing a phone, an iPhone, similar to the Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus. So you might be getting some iPhones that are going to have similar hardware. Now, of course, this is just rumors and people talking because people want to talk about the iPhone 8 since they saw what Samsung manufactured with their phones. Now, my opinion is this. If Apple creates a phone that is similar to the Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus, it would make a lot of sense. First of all, you have Apple and Samsung competing. And ever since that Apple chose to go to other manufacturers for some of their hardware to compete even more with Samsung, so when you have other manufacturers out there providing that hardware for Apple, of course they're going to be seeing what Samsung does and try to compete even more with them, and that could produce a lot of changes for the iPhone. Now, this is where it would make sense to me. You have the Samsung Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus that has TouchWiz, but we know a lot of people out there like iOS and they're fans of the iPhone, so it doesn't necessarily mean that they would want to switch to TouchWiz. I would think more people would want to switch to the stock version of Android. That's just my personal opinion. But as far as the S8 and S8 Plus from Samsung, compared to what Apple could create, if they produce a similar phone, I do not think it would be an issue for Apple. Of course, people out there are going to say, hey, Samsung had those ideas and Apple's copying them. That's just the way it is with these companies when they're competing with each other. I also think that Apple has the capability of being original themselves, where they're going to have additional features for the phone that the Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus does not have. But as far as Apple fans and what people will be interested in with an iPhone 8 or iPhone 8 Plus, if they even name the phones that, you're going to have a company like Apple, again, with loyal fans, a phone similar to the Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus, and a lot of people are going to purchase that iPhone. That's what happens when a company has that brand loyalty. I've talked about that a lot on this channel, but that's what the situation is with Apple. They have a lot of fans, and people are interested to see what they're doing. I'm not saying that people are not interested to see what Samsung does, but Samsung doesn't really help themselves when they try to create these phones like the S8 and S8 Plus, and they put TouchWiz there, which is a confusing experience, especially for people that want to use Android. And that's even a situation for people that would use an iPhone that has iOS that would even think about switching to a Samsung phone with the Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus. So I think Apple has an opportunity to manufacture iPhones that are even better than the S8 and S8 Plus. Now, if Apple wanted to change anything, I really think at this point in time you need to remove that home button. I think most people agree with that. And I'm talking about the physical home button. You also have to do something with your screens. You could make curves to the screen like Samsung did with the edges to the screen, which is awesome. You can also add just better screens as far as an upgrade from the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus. Then you're talking about the hardware for the camera. An opportunity is there to add a better camera than the Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus. You're talking about the overall design. Look at the S8 and S8 Plus as far as the screens being narrow from Samsung. I was not impressed by that. This is something that Apple does not have to do. I would think if the people at Apple know what they're doing, they're not going to copy that idea from Samsung. That's what I'm saying. This is an opportunity for them to really improve the iPhone, where it's going to probably be more popular than the Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus. And that's what I think about Apple even compared to Samsung. Now, as far as the NBA playoffs, shout out to DubNation. We're talking about the Warriors versus the Blazers. When people try to say that the Spurs are better than the Warriors, even trying to say that the Cavaliers are better than the Warriors, are you guys even watching the games? I'm just saying, because, the Spurs, no offense to them, but when the Warriors went up against you guys, and yes, it was the regular season, you guys didn't win that game, and the Warriors didn't even have Durant. Now, we're talking about the Warriors team with Durant. And by the way, when people talk about Kevin Durant, he just started with the team this season. He has to be one of my favorite Warriors because compared to when he was with OKC, and I would root against OKC and he was on the team, so obviously I'm rooting for the Warriors, I would root against them. But now that he's on the Warriors, this guy is a leader, he's humble, and now I get why Draymond Green would yell at him. Because Kevin Durant has so much talent and skill that when Draymond Green would yell at him, it's probably to motivate him to the point where he could be aggressive in the game. Because with Draymond, if you ever see him talking to Steph Curry or Klay Thompson, and now Durant, or even Iguodala or anyone on the Warriors, a lot of times he's yelling. That's the attitude of a winner. This is somebody that wants to win games. And he's about basketball. He's not about the nonsense. As much as people say, hey, he's trash talking or whatever, this guy wants to win. And if that's your teammate and he's yelling at you, that's nothing personal. It's the fact that he wants to win the game or he wants to explain something to you. And he's about wanting to win another championship, or championships again, as I've been saying, because with Draymond Green, the Warriors, they're not just trying to win games in this season and trying to win the championship for this season. They want to win a lot of championships. And with that kind of culture, with that kind of team, they're not just comparing themselves to other teams. In fact, they don't compare themselves to other teams. They know that they're the best. They know they have some of the best players in the NBA, and they want to win. So with a guy like Kevin Durant, his attitude has been so impressive to me because he didn't take that personal when Draymond would say stuff to him. He's out there balling. And now that he's with the team again, you see this guy with the attitude. And then when he's going to the perimeter and he's getting his shots, this guy has a versatile game, just like the Warriors overall do. When a team has that much game, where you go to the perimeter, where you could drive the paint, in game 1, that ball was being dished out to Clark. Then you have Draymond getting some points, which Draymond, again, you don't know when he's going to shoot from the perimeter. You really don't, because that ball could be going to Steph. That ball could be going to Klay. You don't know. In fact, I will also say this about Klay Thompson. Something that you notice about Klay, especially if you're a fan of the Warriors, you know when Klay's in the game, he doesn't take crap for anyone. And with that kind of attitude again, this is confidence, but this is also about knowing what you want to accomplish. And when you have players like this, that team is really tough. And I've said this about the Warriors, and people don't want to say anything about it or whatever in the sports media or even fans out there of other teams. You can say everything that you want about Klay Thompson and Steph Curry shooting a lot from the perimeter. You can say things about the Warriors that they didn't win last year, whatever. A lot of things happened in those playoffs last year. But we're talking about this year's playoffs. We're talking about this team, and they're all about wanting to win. And this is not about a regular season record. This is not about whether LeBron James is in the NBA Finals, because the Cavaliers are playing mediocre basketball at best. And that's real talk about the Cavaliers. Similar to even the Raptors, although they won recently. Now that series is tied 1-1 with Milwaukee. The Raptors, no offense to you, you guys are playing mediocre basketball. You guys are supposed to be the better team. And in the first round, you do not look impressive. Actually, in the Eastern Conference, the team that looks impressive, surprisingly, but not that surprisingly, because teams sometimes that don't really think they're going to get into the playoffs don't have that much pressure, and that would be the Chicago Bulls. So you guys in the Eastern Conference, or as I like to call you guys, the watered down Eastern Conference, because there's a lot of mediocre basketball out in the Eastern Conference compared to the Western Conference. No offense. A lot of you guys wouldn't even be in the playoffs if you were in the Western Conference. You know, I look at the Western Conference and you see teams like the Warriors, the Spurs, the Rockets, or even OKC. But for people that watch the Western Conference, you know that OKC and the Rockets are not favorites in the Western Conference for obvious reasons. So when you compare teams, you look at the Warriors and you say, do you really think a team like the Cavaliers could win against them in the finals? With the way the Cavaliers are playing basketball right now, could a team like the Raptors, even if, which I don't think, but even if they got to the finals, do you really think that they could compete with the Warriors on that level? I'm talking about winning the series. I'm not talking about winning a game. That's like some kind of accomplishment. You think that you won something. You win one game, you get knocked out of the playoffs. That's not an accomplishment. That's like you won a game. So with the Warriors, I'm not just saying that as a fan of a team. I'm talking about as a fan of basketball and also as a fan of the Warriors. The Warriors are the best team in the league right now. That's reality. And if you want to talk about any other team out there, I'm sure I could figure out very quickly why that team can't compete on the same level as the Warriors. Because the Warriors are that good. And even if you talk about the Warriors bench, that's a complete team. Without LeBron or even Kyrie Irving for the Cavaliers, that's it. They don't win. Their team is about Kyrie and LeBron. And even more now about Kyrie. Then you look at the Spurs. Yes, Kawhi can ball. But a lot of times when you guys are talking about the Spurs and Kawhi, you're not even talking about the Warriors and some of the best players on the Warriors. Do you really think that Kawhi is better than Durant? I'm just asking that question because Durant is having a fantastic season. And I think even with the Spurs and their system compared to the Warriors, with Durant on the Warriors team, the Warriors won against the Spurs again without Durant. So I think the Warriors have a real advantage against the Spurs. And I'm talking about offensively and the way the Warriors are playing defense. I don't think any team in the NBA has as good of a player, as versatile as Draymond Green. Offensively and defensively, a two-way player like him. No other team has someone like that. I think he's one of the best two-way players in the NBA, and I think he's actually the best defensively in the NBA. Then you're talking about the Eastern Conference, and who you think could even get to the finals. It's not a guarantee for Cleveland. If they continue to play basketball this way, which they have for more than half the season, that team is a disaster in the making. It's not LeBron's fault, I would say, just him. It looks like sometimes they're trying to figure out ways to lose the game. The Raptors the same way. You have leads throughout the game. The way you're playing against teams where you're supposed to be the better team, it's not impressive. Some people think a win is a win in the playoffs, even during the regular season. If we're talking about the playoffs, yeah, a win is a win because you won that game. But if you continue to play the same mediocre basketball, you're not a team that people are going to think is going to win the NBA championship. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying when you compare yourselves to the better teams out there, a great example is the Warriors versus the Blazers. Do you really think that the Raptors or the Cavaliers should be even in the finals? Either team, really. I'm not just saying the Cavaliers or the Raptors, even including the Bulls, could get to the finals. But do you really think that the Raptors or the Cavaliers could get to the finals before a team like the Warriors or even the Blazers? Now, the Blazers, I think, are going to be knocked out because I'm rooting for the Warriors. But the Blazers, to me, could compete easily with the Raptors, especially in the playoffs. Because now we're talking about playoff basketball, where there's real pressure. Now, you're talking about the Blazers in the Western Conference. If the Blazers were in the Eastern Conference, they'd probably be owning that whole conference, even against the Cavaliers. Although the Cavaliers have that opportunity to get to the finals because it's Cavaliers. But I would also say this about the Cavaliers. Again, you guys talk a lot about how great your team is, but you're not great. You're a good team, but you're playing mediocre basketball. And that's why you're not number one in the East. Because of all those games that your team was just whatever, arguing with each other, and you're not sharing the ball, you're not playing basketball as a team. That's not impressive at all. The Eastern Conference doesn't impress me. And a lot of people have been saying that, but that's exactly what's going on. Eastern Conference has a lot of mediocre basketball. Not all the teams, by the way. Because there's a lot of guys in the Eastern Conference that can ball, but we're not just talking about individuals, we're talking about teams as a whole. As far as the Western Conference, the Clippers and the Jazz, and the fact that the Clippers won, the Clippers are not an impressive team to me. Even with the way they won that game the other night, they're not an impressive team. And the winner of that series is going to have to go against either the Warriors or the Blazers, and I think it's going to be the Warriors. And I'm saying that the Clippers, if they even win against the Warriors, this is not much of a rivalry. Some people want to say that because they're in California. It's not a rivalry right now. This is about the Warriors winning a lot of games. They want to win another championship. The Clippers are not thinking like that. The Clippers, look at the way they play basketball. Look at the way the team is. To me, the Clippers are a mess. And then you look at the other series, the Rockets versus OKC. OKC could win one game. It's possible. Look at the Rockets, though. The Rockets as a team, in the next series, because you got the Spurs versus the Grizzlies, it could be the Spurs and the Rockets. And even for the Warriors when they go against the Spurs. You know how the refs are going to be when the Warriors play at their arena. I think most people know that. That's how it is in the NBA. It happened last year. It's going to happen every season, every playoffs. In certain series, the refs are like that for whatever reason. The refs are not going to give the Spurs that many fouls. Not like the Grizzlies. Even in the next game, you might see it more even, but it's not going to be like what they were doing with the Spurs. And even if it was, people are going to say that's ridiculous because you really shouldn't be officiating a game like that, where it's that one-sided. And one team is not really doing anything that significant where they would get that many more fouls than the other team. You have to ask about it. And that's what the coach of the Grizzlies did. But I don't think that's going to change the series. The Grizzlies, they have a possibility of winning a game. I'm not saying they're going to. It could happen. I just think that Spurs are going to win that series. No offense to the Grizzlies, but the Spurs are the Spurs. They have very good coaching, very good system. The Spurs can ball. And it does look like it could be the Rockets versus Spurs. I would think the Spurs could knock out the Rockets. I don't think the Rockets as a team as a whole are great. I think they're good, but I don't think they're a great team. No offense to James Harden. I noticed that people don't want to talk about that either, but really, he does flop. And I'm not saying other guys in the NBA don't flop, but James Harden does that a lot. Just with the way he shoots the ball. As far as the other series, the way the Warriors are thinking about going against these teams, they have their goals set. They want to win games, and they want to win this championship. That's what the Warriors want to do. They're not about the nonsense again. They don't want to talk about other series. They don't care what the other team is saying about them, because other teams are talking or whatever. They are a lot better Much better. They were better than the Cavaliers last season, although in the finals, a lot of things changed. People don't want to talk about that sometimes, but that's the reality. You had Draymond Green getting suspended. You had injuries on the team. Those are facts. Then you talk about Draymond Green this season. I think he learned a lot from last year. Notice the way he's talking to his teammates, the way he is in the game, even with Steph and Clay. Now you got Durant, which I think the coaches on the team did a fantastic job helping them, because you need coaching, you need leadership so the team knows what they're doing throughout the game. You know, guys are not just going out there in the NBA and just shooting the ball. It's not about that. They need to know where to be, meaning they're competing as a team. I would say that's a lot different than some of the other teams you see out there in the NBA. So that's what I think about the NBA playoffs, or even about the Warriors, and of course the iPhone 8. I would like to know what you guys think. Post your comments down below, and of course if you like this video, give a thumbs up. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.